Okay, this is Monicah Kariuki again, and you are on Echo FM live on Facebook as well as on the radio. And this is my brother. What is your name?
My name is Arthur Mbatia.
I made him be here. So because he really understands this topic and he can do a better job than I can. So why don't you just moderate this meeting for me today, please?
Actually, I'm here because I've been ordered to. And since I'm a good big brother, I decided that I must show up. And there's no place I'd rather be, sincerely. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, sir.
So with us, we have a very, very competent panel. We have Miss Eunice. She's a psych nurse practitioner. She has a lot of experience with mental illness, treating people. She very, very passionate about this topic. Hi, Eunice.
Hello.
And on the other hand, we have Hayden, who is also a nurse based in the UK. Thank you for joining us, Cecilia.
Hello.
So we wanted to talk about mental illness. It's an area that is very, very neglected. A lot of people don't know when to seek help. They don't know when to, what signs and symptoms to look for. It's amazing that if somebody gets a heart attack, everybody knows what the signs and symptoms of a heart attack is. But nobody knows when you have this debilitating illness that can lead you to take your life. So we do know that we have quite a few people who are very, very well and have ended up taking their own lives. We know that it's a disease that knows no bounds. It takes people regardless of their race, ethnicity, socioeconomic status, how much successful you are, but still there are people who succumb to this illness. Do they know when to seek help? Do they know signs and symptoms? What about families and loved ones? Do they know what to do? And were there any warning signs? Some people who actually we know and can ring a bell would include people like Robin Williams, who was a very, very prominent actor, made us laugh all the time. But apparently, he was not happy himself, ended up taking his own life. We have people like Aaron Hernandez from the NFL, Kate Spade, very successful designer, Ernest Hemingway, a very successful writer, Cleopatra, who was a queen of Egypt, ended up taking their own lives. The question is, what makes somebody to be so unhappy, so deeply hopeless to end up taking their own lives? Eunice, I know you have seen a lot of people who have come to you asking for help. What would make somebody, if you can answer, what is suicide and what drives somebody to commit suicide?
So thank you so much for the opportunity. To answer the question, what makes somebody want to commit suicide? For one, according to the statistics, 90% of the people that kill themselves have a diagnosable mental health illness, 90%, which means they either have been or they haven't been diagnosed. So there must be an underlying mental health illness. So a few factors that predispose people to committing suicide is previous suicidal behaviors. If they've attempted suicide or threatened to commit suicide, that's one of the risk factors. Family members that have committed suicide genetically predispose the people to committing suicide. For example, depression, a family history of mental illness is a risk factor. And bullying or harassment, which can be bullying at school, bullying at home. Sometimes people get bullied without knowing they're being bullied, even adults. So bullying or harassment or domestic, that can be domestic violence. It can be, just the family members or friends. Can come from anywhere. Social situations, social isolations and loneliness. So loneliness, if, for example, people they feel like they don't have friends, or they, for any reason, maybe they've lost a friend or they are not close to any friends or they've been rejected, that predisposes somebody to committing suicide. And also parenting, parenting or environment where you live, depending on where people live, sometimes people is like same thing, isolation, they get isolated from family members, or maybe environment where they live is just not comfortable for them, or they feel like they're neglected, or they feel like they're not worthy to live there, or they feel like nobody cares about them. So environment or social situations also can dispose somebody from for committing suicide.
Cecilia, I know that when you work and people come to you, people really confide to nurses. Somebody might have told you that maybe somebody who was recovering and told you, hey, this is how I felt when I decided to commit suicide. What do people say? What do they complain about when they talk about their attempts?
The one they usually use mostly, they say, I have had enough. I can't cope. I don't think I can live anymore. And they just feel they express, they don't want to, and like they feel sometimes like they are putting the family as well. Like one of them I talked to some few days ago, who is actually a very serious health harmer, and she always tied ligations and trying, harming himself, swallowing things and all these kind of things. I said, and she's some woman who have got children anyway. So she was just kind of like feeling like now she's even putting her family under pressure, and she has actually seen, and not even the family doesn't want him, and he's also thinking that he's putting the family also on having to have burden on that. So she just has lost hope at all. She doesn't have a hope. And she say, again, something happened again, the mother died. So there are so many things actually can push them. And some have been abused. Most of girls who come in, mostly girls, they self-harm and all these, they are abused, maybe by their families, maybe that is like strangers or people, or even brothers or whoever, they have been abused. As I say, there are also children who have been looked after. They stay in institutions. They are foster mothers and all this. They have been abused. And actually, when I just had said earlier that they tend actually to feel, because of those traumas, they just kind of, they don't want to feel they can't cope. And they bottle up also many things in their hearts, and sometimes they are not able even to express. And so this also causes them to feel they are burdening their families as well. So they feel they just want to end it up.
As a parent, it concerns me when I look at how many kids struggle with mental illness.
Yeah.
And when I look at depression as a suicide being a third leading it concerns me a whole lot.
Yeah.
So can you touch a little bit, Ms. Eunice, about teenagers and depression and the things that they are struggling with?
So let me talk a little bit about statistics on the teenagers that commit suicide, because actually we have a lot, unfortunately. So the suicide mostly, as in under the age of 10 is not as much. I'm not saying kids don't talk about it. Sometimes they start talking about suicide, wanting to die at the age of 8. But 1 in 100,000 children that are between the age of 10 to 14 die from suicide. 1 out of 100,000. So if you calculate the whole, that's a lot of kids. And then, so as the age goes up to 15 years, 15 to 19, it's like 1 in 100, 7 in 100,000 children commit suicide. So which of course the risk keeps going up as the age goes up. So teenagers have a lot of, there's a lot of things that predispose them to, committing suicide, which is, like we said, being bullied in school, or like I mentioned earlier, identity. So they're trying to know who they are. So they struggle with media and placing the family, and also being the same, like they're trying to be equal or to look the same, like, to be as their friends, peers and social media. And so they have too much peer pressure. At home, they're trying to behave, which is probably not, they can't do what they want to do sometimes. At school, they want to be like their friends. And when they look at the social media, it tells them otherwise. There is something that they need to fix on their face. There is something that they need to fix about their weight. They're either overweight or they're underweight, or they are not created perfect. So, and then if they don't have enough support group, which is friends or somebody to talk to, then they feel lonely and isolated. So when this happens, they start looking, actually teenagers, they Google about suicide, what can they do? And actually I've had a lot of stories, even like I said, it starts from even 8 years old. I've had a 12-year-old hang themselves. Mother went to the room and then found out she hanged himself. That is just because they feel hopeless, or they feel at home when they're being disciplined, they feel like nobody loves them. So they have too much pressure going on. So in terms of teenagers, I think it's mainly trying to find identity. So they need a lot of guidance. And when they don't have that, or when they feel like they don't have support, then they just lose hope. And that's when they run to suicide. But most of the time, there is, like I started by saying, there is a mental illness, which is 90% of the time.
Let me ask you. You talk about there's a lot of pressure. They probably get disciplined at home. If I think about my generation, when my mother did not have to ask anybody for permission to spank me, or to spank anybody that's from my generation, we were really spanked. That if we were spanked in this generation the same way that we were spanked at that time, we probably would be saying that, we have, mental illness, out of the spanking. But we made it just fine. I think, so what I'm trying to ask you, as with other generations as we go, as we evolve, have we become even more lenient to these children, to where their coping skills are not like our coping skills? We could have been sent out there, we would have been able to survive. The children nowadays, if you send them out there, they may not be able to survive. And that is why their coping skills is not as good as ours. And so when they are just a little bit depressed, they tend to, threaten that they're going to commit suicide, which most of the time they go through with it. Do you think that it has anything to do with, maybe now the media, there's too much media? What is wrong, or what is the generational gap or difference?
I think that's a very good question, because we are raising children in this generation with social media and everything else that they're exposed to. So when we grew up, like you said, where we came from, spanking was you get spanked and you move forward and you don't go threatening to kill yourself. But now it's gotten to a point where children, because they're so exposed, there is so much about suicide. There is so much about peer pressure. They see all this in the media. Like, talk about suicide, talk about what happened. They see all this happening in school. Kids are killing themselves, or kids are going to mental health. They threaten to kill themselves in school while the other kids are looking at it. So they are also in this environment. So they see all this happening. So yes, their coping skills are not as our coping skills, because that's how we knew, and we didn't know about suicide pretty much. It's like, hey, if you want to kill yourself, go kill yourself. But I mean, if you mention that now, yes, those children will go kill themselves. It's
Right.
not like the way that our parents used to be like, hey, if you want to kill yourself, then do it. But of course, it was just an empty threat.
Yeah.
But right now, because of the exposure and what has happened, these children know what are their, can I call it resources, or what the defenses out there. So they feel like, hey, if you tell me this, then I can do this. Or if I threaten you, some of them use it as a threat. If I tell you that I'm going to kill yourself, you will get scared. And guess what? You'll give me what I want. If I want video games, or this is what I want, then I'll threaten I'm going to kill myself. Then you do this. And then if you spank me, I'll call 911, or this is what I'm going to do. So yes, we're living in a world where we have to learn, yes, to teach these teenagers to cope. At the same time, we have to be truthful. This is where we live. This is the current world they're exposed. So just be open and discuss with them. And yes, even with this world, still, yes, we can raise children in the right way. There is still a way. Just talk to them, open up with them. It doesn't matter. As soon as they get that age where they start knowing and learning social media, talk openly about suicide. What happens before and what causes these kids from commit suicide? And when it happens, this is what happens. I usually try to tell the kids, yes, this is before suicide. And after suicide, when you are not here, this is what happens to your family. This is where you leave them. You have gone, yes, this can happen. And this is how you can prevent them. This is what leads you to here. So before you get here, then talk to somebody. You can try to find them. Hey, do you have a parent that you trust? Do you have a friend that you trust that you can talk to? Is there somebody, maybe a friend, maybe a neighbor, maybe a family friend that you can tell exactly how you feel? So if we cannot get inside completely, listen to them, know exactly what they're thinking, yes, we can miss these suicidal thoughts very easily. And before you know it, it will be too late. So it can happen. Yes, it's unfortunately, this is where we live in this, this generation.
My opinion, and I might not know very well about this, is that I don't think it's a coping skills. I think the underlying mental illness has a lot to do with it. Because even when we grew up and we were spanked quite a bit, I know that probably I got my fair share of spanking. And I know many mothers who were. But every time, once in a while, you heard about somebody who overdosed because that's the only thing they knew how to get, maybe get many medications. Somebody went and got malaria pills and took a bunch of them and was trying to commit suicide. We know that those happen. And that shows that maybe even in that culture, even if the culture changes, we still have people out there who are suffering so much with some kind of mental illness, which takes me back to our children again. As a parent, I'm very concerned about this. Let's talk about why we miss that our kids are suffering. What are some signs and symptoms we would be looking for in somebody who is depressed to know that they need help?
Yeah, before I get there, let me tell you a little bit about, the coping skills. Yes, there is mental illness. Like I said, 90% of the time they have mental illness, 90% of the time. But this mental illness, think about it, it's the same people, like it's same kids. We also grow in the same situation. Of course, we were stressed out about situations, but these children don't have a strong coping mechanism as we did. So yes, we need to take care of their mental illness to be able to help them to be able to cope. So coming back to the questions that you just asked, the questions, what to look for, the warning signs of suicide and of this mental illness. The main one is depression, of course, like we know. That's we have depression, schizophrenia, we have anxiety and eating disorders, but the main one is depression. That's what leads them to committing suicide. So some of the warning signs will be, when they keep saying, making statements like, I wanna die. I don't feel like I wanna be here. I don't think the world would be any different if I wasn't here. I wish I wasn't even born. So when they make statements like those, of course, there is a problem, but that seems to be mainly the adults that make those kind of statements, but even kids will do that. It's like, I don't even know why I'm here. I don't even know if I'm any important. And feeling trapped. Some of them feel like they were born in wrong families. Of course, you hear them mentioning, I wish I wasn't even in this family, or some families are better than this, or stuff like that. Then you start asking, at that point, it gives you, it gives you a clue to start asking, is there something else that we are missing? Is there something else that is stressing out that we can solve? What is it that is bothering you? And then long periods of depression. Of course, if you realize sadness, depression is, an extended period of sadness that, they have lost interest on the stuff that they used to enjoy doing, but they don't do those anymore. So if you realize they have long periods of sadness or depression, then yes, you need to find out why. And of course, if you find out also they're trying to access stuff like firearms, other means, they're Googling online, you open the kids' computer, you find out, hey, forms of killing yourself or stuff like that, or they're watching how people kill themselves. Of course, that's a red flag. You need to pay attention to, hey, why is this kids reading about this and why are they finding out about it? Giving away prizes or possessions. Sometimes the teenagers, it's like, oh, they love maybe their little sister too much that they're like, oh my goodness, I just want to give you this in their mind. when I go, at least you'll remember me, you would remember me. So they start giving them away prices, the stuff that they used to treasure so much they will never leave behind. They're giving them to the people that they love. Oh, I love my mother, maybe I don't care about my father, I don't care about my mother, let me give it to the other parents. So when they start giving away the stuff that they love most, that's a warning sign. Or when you see them becoming reckless, taking risks, unnecessary risks. For example, they're drinking too much, they start drinking, or they start using drugs, or they're misbehaving. Those are warning signs that you need to find out why are they doing this, because they must be depressed. There is a reason why they're doing this. So just trying to find out, hey, what is going on? Sudden changes in mood. They were good, most of the time these kids are happy, they're playing with their family, and then all of a sudden they're just quiet, they're in their room, so they don't want to talk to anybody. Or when you ask them something, they're just like, yes, no, yes, no. They don't have that, they've changed from who they used to be. So that's a warning sign that you need to look out for. Withdrawal from friends and family, that's the same thing. When they're withdrawing, they don't want to hang out with family, or they don't want to, be around their friends. They just want to be alone. So those are just a few warning signs of the stuff to look for on the teenagers, and not just teenagers, actually, for everybody. Yeah.
Yeah.
What Celia, do you like to?
Okay, Eunice have actually explored so much about the children, and I think there's some things that, and especially parents miss mostly, because we as, and especially we have come from where we come from, we want our children to perform better maybe in the school, and we are putting pressure. Oh, if I am a doctor, I want my child to be a doctor. If I'm, and then maybe one of the child is performing better in the house, and then maybe you'll be comparing them. And this also can bring a lot of problem with the children, and you're causing them even to be, to feel that now they are failures. I think we must be very careful as students, as parents as well, to make sure that children, we don't compare with them, you don't put pressure on them. I like this country because when they are able to realize the strength of a person. If they see that this person can do well in history, they will concentrate on that line, so that child can actually excel in that line. But if it is me, I want my child to be a doctor, I want them to be an engineer, I want them to be those big things and jobs that somebody you would want your children to be. But sometimes it can't happen. So I think most of our parents, we miss that, and we cause the student to go deeper into those depression and anxiety and everything. So, and they start now behaving the way they behave. So I can only add that because actually Eunice has talked about almost everything I could have said. So, and also again, we can also think, as you say, about the social media. That one is another destroy thing for the children, because as you say, there is only one child I know that he wanted really to die, and he looked on the ways to die, and he ended it. He ended it completely. He did end it. So there is so much actually for our children, even though parents need to do all that they can do to protect them and to help them, and and especially there is also something that we need to have that relationship from the beginning, and especially those days of what do you call it, when they are growing, adolescence. That is where either your child will either become better, or it can be worse, and that's where they become devious and they can do all those sorts, and they learn so many things. So when you miss those children there, you will not be able to help them. And I think it is good to have a rapport with your children, make them your friends. That's the only way I have learned in life. And if you don't make that, to make it just, you make those children like your friends, not like, oh, you have to do this, you have to do this. You have to make them to be friends, and that way you make them closer. They may be able to open to you. They may be able to be telling you when whatever they're experiencing. Maybe that can help even to understand, oh, now I have seen my child have changed, what is happening, what is going on. because if you are discussing and you're having time together, you are eating your food together, and now you have started, the child is going to rock in the bedroom and on being alone. So you must realize there must be something now. You can now start thinking or searching to know what is happening with the child.
I like your approach. One thing, don't put too much pressure. Know your child's abilities. Secondly, be close to them. Be open so that you can have those communication channels. That's an excellent point. Now, when we talk about suicide, and to me, suicide is the end of it. We've come to the end. I'm sure it's a journey. I don't think people just get mentally ill and they want to kill themselves immediately. So Eunice, can you take us through the journey from the beginning of mental illness, and what can we be looking out for? Like when you talk about depression, we know that people who are depressive will start fast. They will start by maybe feeling sad, more sadness, and then they go to where they don't want to do things that you were doing before. Some people get a lower sex drive. Some people stop eating. Some people eat too much. Can you please walk us through that so that maybe we can notice some of these signs and symptoms earlier?
Okay, yes, thank you. I'll just summarize, I'll start with mental illness. Mental illness is a psychological disorder that causes, behavior disturbances in your mood and thinking. So we have a few causes of the mental disorders. Which predisposes us to mental disorders. Inheritance, which is, there's nothing you can do about it. Inheritance factors, we have environmental factors. We have the brain chemistry, which is where if the brain chemistry, of course, is not balanced with the chemicals in your brain. That is a risk factor, but that's where now medications come in. A history of mental illness, like we said earlier, stressful life, if you have stressful life or things that have happened in your life, those are risk factors of having a mental illness. An ongoing medical condition, for example, diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer, that can, make you have a mental illness. Brain damage, which sometimes you play sports or you fall or stuff like that, that happens, which causes traumatic head injury sometimes, which is, where brains, and then that causes mental illness. Having few friends or not having friends at all, previous mental illness, I mentioned that. So those are a few things to pay attention to that will dispose us to having mental illness. So how do we prevent it from, how do we help ourselves from having mental illness? Like, what can we do about it? We can have routine checkup, like when you go to a primary care, usually when they do the physical checkup, your blood pressure and all that, they also do a mental checkup where you fill out a paper. If they find out you're depressed or whatever that is going on with you, they will refer you to a specialist. So routine checkup is very important. Get help when you need it, because sometimes people need help and they don't know how to seek for help, or they don't know if they need to seek for help. Take good care of yourself. Give yourself time. If it's go out for workout, exercises, eat healthy, take care of yourself. So let me talk a little bit about depression and the mental health sickness. Let me just talk a little bit about depression before I talk about suicide. So depression is a mood disorder that causes persistent feeling of sadness and loss of interest on the things that you used to enjoy. Persistent, more than 2 weeks most of the time. Once it's more than, yes, it's considered depression. So it affects how you feel, how you think, and how you reason. So even when people make judgment on killing themselves, they're not on the right mind. But if they could have been taken care of when the depression was starting or before they got so bad, they could have been, helped. So depression is not a weakness. it's not simply something you can snap out of. It's like, hey, you're depressed. Why can't you get out of it? Why can't you pray about it? No, it's a mental illness, and it's something that needs to be taken care of seriously. So we have a few types of depression. We have major depressive disorder. That's the one I said, 2 weeks and more. We have, that's the one I just explained. Bipolar disorder, that's another topic of another day, but it's where you have periods of depression and periods of excessive energy, which is manic episodes. And then we have what we call, which most people I think don't recognize, seasonal affective disorder. That's where during the winter, most people get depressed because the days are shorter and then they don't get enough light. So the treatment for that is lighting. So which you will think as easy as it is, it causes people to go through depression. And PMDD, which is premenstrual, that is, that's mainly for women, which happens between the period where they start ovulation until the period starts. Usually their mood changes. So if they know what that is, or if that happens every month, that is a long period. It can be 1 week, it can be 2 weeks, but that's a long period for somebody to be sad every month. So if you know what it is, you can learn what to do about it, or to take medications, or to get some coping skills, or learn what you can do during just those periods, so you don't have to go through that every month. We have psychosis, which is seeing, that's just when it goes so bad, it can lead to psychosis, where you see things, you hear voices, and hopefully we don't want it to get to that, that bad, where you, because by the time you start seeing things and hearing voices, you've pretty much you can stop.
Is it possible that people could be going through depression and they don't even realize that they have depression? Because I've had people tell me that I'm just sad, but I don't know why I'm sad. And I've had people tell me, but I've been sad for some time now, but I don't know why I'm sad. I can't even tell you what's making me sad. Why is that?
So yes, people can go through depression, but because they don't know what depression is, they don't know what that is. So they don't know what to do. So for example, these are the signs of depression: feeling sadness, like I said, tearfulness, people are crying, feeling empty, hopeless, sleep disturbance, they can't sleep at night, or they go to sleep, they wake up several times at night, or they sleep too much. They don't have energy, they don't feel like getting up, they can't do anything, gaining too much weight, or losing because they're eating out of stress. And some of them can't eat because they're stressed out, so they lose their appetite. So when you know the symptoms, then you can know what to look for. Feeling tired, tiredness and exhausted. You can't do anything. You can't figure out you haven't done anything. You woke up, you slept last night, the whole night, but you wake up the following day, you don't have energy, you are feeling tired, and you don't have any interest of even doing the stuff that you used to enjoy. I used to love cooking, or I used to love going out or going to play or sports, but you don't feel like doing any of those things anymore. You don't have energy, no interest. So those are the symptoms that you can look for. Recurrent thoughts of death, you just want to die. Every time you think about it, you sit down, or you just feel like, oh my God, what will be if I was dead? What will happen to my children or to my family if I wasn't here? What will happen to this? So when you have those recurrent thoughts, that tells you need to seek for help. Feeling anger, outbursts, irritability, where you are agitated and irritable and frustrated all the time. Small matters just make you irritable. Somebody says something small, you're irritable. Those are signs and symptoms to look for. Anxiety, agitation, restlessness. You can't figure out what is bothering you. You just can't sit still. You can't figure out what you want to do. You're just feeling overwhelmed. Unexplained physical problems, for example, back pains and headaches, because when you have too much stress, that causes you physical illness. Mental illness also can cause physical illness. For example, you are we say the loss of appetite or gaining too much weight because you're eating, that causes you to diabetes, high blood pressure. Of course, headaches, we have tension headache where it's too much stress. So yes, so people can, but when you know the symptoms to look for, when you say, hey, I feel sad, but I can't figure out why, then at least you need to know, hey, do I have these symptoms? Then I need to seek for help.
Yeah, and I would add that when it comes to depression and some of those signs and symptoms, some of them are coping mechanisms. that you develop. For instance, somebody starts drinking and they were not drinking so much, substance abuse, and it's some kind of self-medication. Then suicide ideation will actually come to the very end when they're so desperate and they feel that there's nothing else to do. Now, question here. We know that these are the signs and symptoms of somebody who's depressed. How do we go and start? What actually makes us how do we get the information from people that this is what is going on with them? I know it's from experience, women have more vocabulary about what's going on and feeling, how they feel. But a man, and I'm sorry to say this, a man is likely to not to say because maybe we've been socially yes, and we are supposed to be strong, macho men, and we hold more in. What is your experience with that, Cecilia, about maybe men versus women and how we express ourselves?
As a matter of fact, I think women, okay, you said about approaching them or how we can do it to them. Then if somebody, we notice that they are, maybe you have noticed there's something going on with them. Maybe if you relate with that person, you can actually talk to them. You can actually, ask them what is going on, if they can be able to open up. But sometimes it can be very tricky to approach somebody because they could be in denial. They wouldn't even accept that they are going in anything. They may not even understand that it is something that is happening to them anyway. But if only they can be able to open up and then you can help them, then it will be very nice. But for men actually, I feel for them because they don't even, they don't talk. You know, women are very talkative. They can actually share their stories and you can know them when they are happy or they are sad. They will be able to express whatever they are feeling anyway. But the men just bottle up everything. They keep them to themselves. And even they cannot even tell their wives sometimes. And, because they are breadwinners and that kind of a thing. Something maybe because of financial breakthrough, they don't have job, they have all these things, and maybe there are things they want to achieve, they have not been able to achieve. And I think most of them, that's why they are led to go and start drinking. And they are hooked up in drinking, and maybe some of them get lost even in drugs and all this. So I believe to approach somebody is a very tricky thing. But it is very important if you know that somebody is actually going through those stuffs, because there's no way that you can actually let somebody just to suffer. I've been able to approach somebody whom we know that is going a lot of problem in their home because of domestic violence, and children who are suffering a lot in it. And actually by approaching that person, because she eventually said that she didn't realize that there is something wrong because he had actually get used into that situation. And by doing that, that person has been able to realize, oh, there is a way I can come out of this. So I think it's a good thing to understand the people that you're living with them, and you know that if you must be able to be with them, and you have seen when they are in a high mood or when they are low in mood, and then you can understand there must be something that is going on because this person has not been like this. And if it is, they can be approachable, it's good to help them, because obviously there are so much help outside there, and maybe some of them, they don't know there is help. And especially where we live, we know there is so much help, and that's the only way we can actually help those people who are struggling.
I think what you're talking about is that women are more emotional. Men are, because of their masculinity, they don't want to acknowledge that there's a problem. And I think culture has something to do with it as well. So, back to you, Eunice. Eunice, if maybe we can establish trust, with our friends, our relatives, that way they can be able to tell us when they are in this mood. And I think also too, when they talk to us and we have established that trust, if we can honor that it was a confidential conversation. Do you agree? So, because that way, if we can trust and we know that someone is actually they are now deeply depressed, where they can even start telling us that they are contemplating suicide. So as a nurse practitioner, if somebody tells you that now they're contemplating suicide, what is the next thing that you have to do?
So just to add on what you've said and what Ms. Cecilia said, let me start from behind a little bit. The risk of suicide for female attempt 4 times more than men, 4 times more, but they don't. But men commit 4 times more than female. So yes, men also attempt suicide, but female attempts more. So, and in every attempt, of course, there is statistics which we can talk about how many people die. But so let's get to the point where how do you get to help somebody when you know somebody's either is depressed or has thoughts of committing suicide? How do you know? So when you've seen all these symptoms that we talked about, depression, somebody, you can tell your friend, this person seems depressed, or they've been sad, or they haven't been calling, they haven't been doing the stuff that they used to do. Definitely there is something wrong with them. So if you get to that point where you feel like that, as a friend, as a community, as a family, as a person, you need to directly ask the person. Unfortunately, we have this misconception that the more you ask people about suicide, you increase the risk of suicide. No, actually, you reduce it. So ask somebody directly, do you have any thoughts of hurting yourself, killing yourself, committing suicide? Direct question. That makes somebody think, and they can open up. And like you said, Monica, somebody has to trust you to tell you. So you have to have that relationship where you are able to talk to somebody, or you are able to ask those questions. Because if you walk to somebody that just feels sad, you don't even know what is going with them, it's like, are you thinking about killing yourself? They will, of course, they will not open up to you. So you also have to have that relationship. But at the same time, yes, you have to ask direct questions. Listening, that's another point. What you can do, listen, non-judgmental listening. Don't just tell them, you don't have to tell them how to solve their problems. You don't have to focus on, just listen to them. If you listen, somebody is usually, sometimes people just need somebody to listen to, somebody to talk to about what is going on. So when they talk about it, sometimes they're able to open up and tell you what they were planning to do or what is stressing them. And who knows, maybe by you opening and listening to somebody, you can save one life. One life is, so listening to people. So when you hear, hey, people talking or people stressed out, just call them. It's like, hey, I was just checking on you. And then, because I know a lot of people that I've called, people have gone to people's houses to visit. And then at the end of the visit, somebody opens up. It's like, you know what, I was really down. Thank you for coming. But some of them say, of course, they were think this is what they've been thinking, or maybe they refer them to the right person to help them. You can refer them to a mental health. If you don't know what you're doing or what you're doing in suicide, do not try to help, because your intervention might be wrong. If you're not trained, refer them to the right person. Refer them to a professional, somebody that can help them. We have suicidal prevention helpline. Direct them to the right path. Because suicide, they have to get one-on-one care. Sometimes you think, of course, once you talk to somebody, they tell you this is what they're thinking. And then, of course, it's like they want to keep them a secret. You don't want to tell anybody else because, hey, it's a secret. At that point, when somebody is at risk of hurting themselves or taking their own life, it's not a secret anymore, because you care more about their safety. So you have to, yes, you have to move forward to helping them. You can ask them, hey, who do they trust if they don't want to talk to you? But if they opened up to you, who do you want me to tell? You can call a family member that you can get involved in the care. You can call a best friend or somebody that they trust that can help you through this, getting the person the help that they need. And that this, or you can call 911 if you have to, or you can take them to the hospital. But you have to get, at the same time, you have to get trust from this person. You don't want to make them not trust you next time, because like when they come to the office and they tell you they want to kill themselves, I don't just go, hey, you pick up this person, take them to the hospital. You have to create that relationship, call their family, explain to them, tell them the importance of seeking for help. What this is not a weakness. They just need help, and they're not alone. People, you are caring, you are there for them. So you have to create that environment for somebody to feel like, yes, even the kind of help that you're giving me, it's good, and keep them safe. Don't leave them alone. If somebody tells you they're killing themselves, or they have thoughts, or this is how they're feeling, please don't leave them alone. Do not leave them alone, period, until you get help.
And while you're on that point, Eunice, there's someone that sent me a message and told me that, you know, somebody wanted to commit suicide. They actually attempted to commit suicide. And I look at that as a cry for help. Can you just talk to our listeners and our viewers that when somebody is attempting suicide, it is not seeking attention. You know, that every attempt and every threat has to be taken seriously. Even though they just mentioned that they're going to commit suicide, we still have to take that seriously, because we cannot be judgmental and say, oh, they just need attention. We can't do that. Can you speak on that? And why is it that, especially in our culture and in our community, we always think that, oh, because we have provided everything, we have given this person everything, so they shouldn't be thinking about suicide. What else could be there that they could be contemplating suicide?
So yes, that is very true. Thank you for bringing that point up, because we think people are seeking for attention. I can talk, let me go back a little bit on the teenagers that I talked earlier about. They might use it, sometimes they might use it as seeking for attention, but this is, but you do not take it lightly, because this is what happens. So teenagers, sometimes, because every time they mention suicide, of course, they get attention, they get what they want. But what I tell parents is, you do not have to make it obvious that this is the topic of, you know, attention. Every minute we're talking about suicide, we're talking about you're gonna kill yourself. No, but 100% and 120%, you still have to monitor, you still have to take it very seriously. But you don't have to talk about it every minute, because like I said, sometimes, yes, they might use it as attention, but you do not have to assume that. But as adults, once somebody has attempted suicide, sometimes they might attempt this time, twice, three, the fourth time they will commit suicide. So that's what we said, previous history of suicide attempts. So if somebody they're literally crying and seeking for help, there must be an underlying mental illness, which, who knows, maybe they had like we said, it might be they have a traumatic head injury, they have a chemicals imbalance in their brain. Who knows, maybe they're just lonely. They need somebody, they need a partner, they need somebody to be with, they need a friend, maybe something that you can provide that. So when somebody's crying for help, when somebody's attempting suicide, it's not seeking for attention, and you shouldn't assume that. Take it seriously, and if it means, that's what I said, you have to stay with them, make sure you seek for help. If you cannot, if the person says no, yes, you are liable to make sure you get help for them, even if it means forcing them to get help. But you cannot leave them and just say, oh, they refused, or they were seeking for help, they were seeking for attention, they'll be okay. Before you know it, they might attempt it the first time, and then you think they're seeking for help. Second time, guess what? The third time, they will kill themselves.
You know, I would not like anybody listening out there or streaming this to think that there is a one-size-fits-all solution to this. Because under extreme depression, you can have somebody who actually is sitting there very depressed. They need help. You need to help them get the help. But it does not necessarily mean that we need to go out there and have them committed, because there's so many ways that we can actually go out there. You can talk to your general practitioner out there. They can prescribe some medications. You can seek help from a psychiatrist. There are nurse practitioners out there who you can go see. And there might be a simple solution to actually help you out. You can be extremely depressed and have a passive death wish. It does not necessarily mean that you're out there trying to kill yourself, but still being unproductive. On the other hand, when somebody tells you that they are suicidal, there are three things that you need to look for. One thing is, do you want to commit suicide? Secondly, do you have a plan? Thirdly, is that plan achievable? Many people will say, I want to die, I want to commit suicide. How do you want to do it? They don't have a plan. So it means that that person is not likely to do it. But a lot of people out there who've committed suicide have either told somebody or acted in a way that somebody could tell that something was likely to happen. So we need to look out for it.
So yes,
How
that
many,
is true.
sorry.
Go ahead, Mr. Silva.
Yeah, I was just also, okay, participating on saying that what you just said, Batia, it is actually true, because obviously, so there's a tutor, one time when we were in school, at the university, they say that once somebody says that they want to commit suicide and say again and again, they have to make it happen. And so this happened to my family, that my brother just kept on saying that I can kill myself, I can kill myself. And eventually he did perform it. So it is something people have to be very careful and not to think that is only thinking. You are looking at somebody, you are thinking he has got money, they have not, they have a job, they have family, and why would they do, why is it happening? What is causing them to do all these things? And when after that, I actually kept on thinking, and it actually hurts the family. It gives the family a lot of questions and even burden and shame. And why this happened? Why didn't we take action? Why didn't we help this person? And for me, I came to realize already that he has actually been verbalizing it. I wasn't there. I wasn't even aware of how you can help somebody that saying about they want to end their lives. But it alone, when I came to study and I realized this is a mental illness, this is when I said, God, I wish I knew. I wish I knew I could have helped my brother. I wish I knew we could have actually looked for counselor or psychologist or anything that could help, that we could have saved that situation. And there are so many people, maybe they have happened like that, just because, as you said about attention, even at work, we should not actually say that somebody is looking for attention. It's something that is actually pushing them. It's something that is actually pushing them to do this, and they can't see any other way. That's the only way they can see, and that's the only way they want to be. So I think it is about now knowing if that somebody has said one, twice, we don't have just to take it for granted and think that they are just praying up, or it's just something they keep on saying this, I can't do it, or looking at how he is and whether he has money or he has this, and he can do it. They can do it. So it is it's our responsibilities as families, as friends, to actually to understand and know that it can actually approach these people and help them with to come out of this mind, not unless it is harm to happen without us knowing.
Yeah, just because you mentioned your brother, and I'm so sorry that you lost your brother to suicide. But because you've mentioned your brother, help us understand as a family, when he was verbalizing that he's going to commit suicide, was the family feeling a little of frustration because of lack of understanding that, what is bothering him is probably he's internalizing other feelings that he couldn't probably tell you guys. So at the moment, he did not understand. But I want to understand what you guys were going through when you heard that your brother was going to commit suicide, or when he was verbalizing that he was going to commit suicide. Were you guys getting frustrated with him, trying to understand, like, what is wrong with you? You have everything, like, what is going on with you? Tell us, please walk us through that so that somebody else can relate, that way they can get to know.
I think as a matter of fact, I think there's something we missed, and especially also not to communicating as a family. Mia was far, the family is far. So for me as a Christian, I just thought of praying, and I actually went to prayer meetings and I was praying. That's the only first thing that I could have done as a godly woman. Yeah.
You were praying for him. You were praying for him.
For him to be delivered, actually to come into terms, and maybe God to help him not to commit those the suicide. But if anything, I think we missed something. We missed something, because if only we were able to communicate of the family and to see this is a problem here, then maybe we could have saved him. But I don't think we ever did something that could have actually helped him to go at least to seek for help. But and because I wasn't there, I didn't know how many times he had verbalized it, and he has never even told me as well. It was something that had been passed to me. So I think if honest, we as family, if you hear, and maybe you can tell one or two people in the family, and then they have to communicate and tell, we have said this, we need to know what is happening with him. And then if there's something that you can be able to, it can open up, then it can be able to be taken, you know, or to get help, or, you know, to be supported. I think we missed something that I could say.
And I think then that's where, you know, Eunice, you know, your practice then comes into play, because that's where we as Africans need to know that God is good and prayers are good, but it's not in everything that God is just going to say, I bless you, and it's not going to happen. This is when we as Africans need to know that we need to actually have more interventions. For example, come to your office or go to seek medical help. Wouldn't you agree? Because that was probably an underlying mental illness condition. Again, also too, I want you to kind of you know, talk about a little bit of, I know you already talked about, you know, what is mental illness, you know, and stuff like that. But sometimes when we mention mental illness, Africans, you know, and I keep on saying we as Africans, because we have less when it comes to some of these issues, you know, we tend to think that mental illness is that person that is out there stripping naked and walking naked, you know, things like that. We do not understand that simple depression is actually mental illness. Mental illness doesn't have to be, you know, that severe, you know, behavior that everybody keeps on talking about. And that is why as African people, when there is subject of mental illness, they're so defensive, and they tend to say that, no, I don't have any mental illness. Well, but do you have depression? The way somebody else is going to deal with their anger, for example, is not the same way that, you know, probably you and I are going to deal with our anger. I get angry, you get angry, but how do you deal with your anger? You don't break things in the house, but the other person is probably breaking things in the house, beating people up, you know, things like that. Those are the issues that we're talking about here today that can push something, because everybody has a limit. Those are the issues that can push somebody to that limit of committing suicide. Can you speak a little bit about that, Eunice? I know I talk too much.
Yeah. Thank you, Monica. Cecilia, I just want to say sorry for losing your brother. But what Cecilia has gone through, she's not the only family that have lost somebody through suicide, or know somebody that has lost somebody through suicide, or something that later you regret, you like, I wish I knew, or I wish there's something I could have done. Like what others said earlier about risk assessment, asking and trying to find out. And so not everybody can be able to do risk assessments. Like, hey, what is your plan and the word, and you're gonna commit suicide, and how close are you, or do you have a plan? If you are not trained and you don't know what to do that much, that's why I said refer them. So mental illness in African perspective, especially, let me talk about East African, because I think we're more far behind than even the West African. Because like where I work, I've seen West Africans come for help. I have quite a few numbers. But East African, maybe I've seen one person that came once and ran away. That's it, like never seen Kenyan. So I think we have that stigma. We feel like we should be, hey, get out of it. Why are you doing it? You're not strong enough. Like you said, Monica, you have everything that you want. Why are you stressed out? So depression or mental illness is just as simple as lack of sleep. You're not able to sleep. You cannot function well the following day. You don't have enough energy. So guess what? Then you start the downhill, going down. I can't sleep every time I go to bed. I'm just thinking, my mind goes racing or goes round. I can't sleep, or I sleep 2 hours. I wake up the following day, you are irritable, because if you're not rested, it affects your mental health, it affects your physical, it affects your job, it affects your self-esteem. You are looking tired, you cannot do it affects everything. So let's talk as simple as just lack of sleep, not able to fall asleep or not able to stay asleep. That is a problem, then that's a mental health problem that people seek help for. Getting a sleeping pill, getting something to help them relax so they can go to sleep. Anxiety, where you have maybe panic attacks, or maybe when you go to social meetings, like some of us are not very social. When we were not trained to being in public. So every time you go in public or you go to people, you feel like your heart is racing. You cannot breathe, you're feeling anxious, you're breathing, you're sweating. That's a mental illness, as simple as that. So just getting a little bit help, something to help you. You know, depression, sadness, you've lost a family member, you lost something. It's possible to get to go through what we call complicated grieving, where it goes more than 6 months, 2 years, you're crying, you can't get out of bed. Seek for help. There is therapy. You don't have to get medications, actually. That should be it can be the last resort or the next. You can start with therapy. Talk to somebody. They help you get some coping skills, what you can do, even sleeping. You can get, hey, drink this, do this before bedtime, do this. So there is more help out there, more than just medications, because I think the way we are raised that we shouldn't trust medications, or medications have side effects. But sometimes, what is the side effects compared to somebody dying? Yes, maybe a medication is going to give you maybe a side effects of a little bit weight gain, let me say, for example. So what is that compared to somebody dying? Which one is better? Which one will you take? So start with, yes, simple help. Yes, mental illness is a stigma that we've had. I think it's in African, I think, generation, I think it's the way we grew up. We need to train our children more than, to know that, yes, if you are not feeling well, if you have problem, if you can't get out of bed, you're feeling sad, you're feeling depressed, or your mood is up and down. That's another thing. We spank them. Yes, but guess what? That would... Go ahead.
So, I don't want to cut you short, because you said a very, very important thing. Growing up and being brought up, going to church, I was taught that committing suicide is a sin. So even thinking about committing suicide would mean that you're thinking about sinning. There's so much stigmatization of mental illness, where people feel afraid to come out. We talk about people feeling irrational. We know that is a big problem as to why people are not able to come and tell you that this is what they're going through. What can we do? What tools do we have to be able to communicate with people and get them to come out and seek help?
Yeah, go ahead. So you mentioned a good point about praying and spiritual, which is very good. Yes, we trust in God. We pray God to help us through this mental illness. When somebody says they want to kill themselves, they've lost even that hope of Christianity about God, and everything is gone. So at that moment, if you want to tell them to pray, they've lost that hope. So that what you need to do immediately, seek help for them, help them. Then once you get them stabilized, then come back, connect. That's why I said stay connected to those people, because the people after attempting suicide, the most people that usually get healthier or get back to the normal where they used to be, the people that, maybe they connect with friends, they connect to somebody that can help them, they continue with therapy, something like that. But at that point, when somebody is talking about suicide, they've lost hope completely. They're hopeless. There is nothing. If they were hoping about, hey, they'll go to heaven, if they were thinking about God, then they wouldn't be talking about suicide. So at that point, yes, you need to seek for help. Help them, and you that is spiritual or that is still has hope, continue praying with them. And once they get stable, then yes, introduce them back to the topic. Hey, let's read the Bible. Hey, let's do this. What about? Then they can get hope from believing in God.
How much time do you have?
Let me go over, I don't even know how long we have been on, but let me just go over like some of the, what people are saying. And I can see Danu is on there. Okay, Peter Kamau, next time I will have a translator for you. I am so sorry. But Danu says, true teens Google about suicide, especially after being punished, or they feel that they are not loved. And then Pura Moria says, I really needed this. I've been struggling with the thoughts for too long. Thank you for this. That's somebody that's been struggling with the thoughts of suicide.
Oh, that's good.
Eunice, I'd like you to touch on a couple of things. Two types of depression that are personal to me. One of them is persistent depressive disorder or dysthymia, where people really do not live to their full potential. They don't think they're sick, but they are all just existing and not living. And then the other one, which a lot of women will have, I have a friend, a dear friend, who got a child, and within about 3 weeks, 2 weeks, wanted to kill themselves, wanted to kill the baby. I know that there was a case here in Texas some time ago where a woman let the husband go and killed all the children, and then calmly called and said, I need you to come home. She was suffering from severe, severe postpartum depression. How can we look out for that? How can we tell? And I know that sometimes with postpartum, it can even be, you can be psychotic after that. How can we help these people?
So let me talk about dysthymia, what you just talked about, persistent depression. So this is where somebody is sad pretty much for a period of more than 2 years. They're just, like you said, they're just existing. They don't have energy. Yes, they have periods of happiness sometimes, but most of the time or sometimes they're sad, no energy, no interest in anything. They're just existing. So they're depressed, yes. So these are the most missed ones, because it's not something new. It's people that you've seen every time you see them, they're just existing. They're not happy mentally. So like I said, low energy, lack of motivation. They don't have motivation to do anything or to develop themselves or to move forward or to look forward for tomorrow. All they care about, well, I have to get up and eat just because I need to eat, not because I care or I enjoy eating food. I have to go to church because people are going to church, not even because they care about it. I have to go to work just because I need to make some money for my children. I just have to live because I have things to do and I cannot live because I'll hurt my family or I'll hurt my children. So they're literally just existing. So this is actually easily missed more than the people that I hate. They're sleeping in bed. They're not able to get out of bed. They're completely talking about suicide. These ones might not even be talking about suicide, but they're sad that their life is completely doesn't have anything to live for. So they've lost hope completely. When they look left and right and forward, they don't see anything to live for, but they can't kill themselves because they don't believe in it. So they just feel like they're stuck. So they're just there. So yes, that's one bad form of depression that, yes, lasts for more than 2 years. So you can imagine somebody for 2 years, you're just there. You just wake up, you cook, you go to bed, you go to work, just that's it. Life doesn't make sense to you, but you're just living because you have to live.
You're just not happy.
You're just not happy. So, and then go ahead.
What about postpartum depression?
So postpartum depression, we have postpartum and even prenatal, you know, when people prenatal depression. So this is when women are pregnant, they go through so many chemical changes, so many that men need to be, we just need some kudos and some support, let me say. It is so much. Yes. People are, you know, throwing up, you don't feel good, we are gaining weight, like so many things are happening inside, you're carrying another human being. So some people go through so much depression during that time, so much. And then I noticed because they're sad or they have mood swings, people assume, oh, it's because they're pregnant. Those are just pregnant moods. No, there is still help for that. They can get we have safe medications that are approved for pregnancy, or they can do therapy at the same time. Like I said, somebody can get help if they're depressed and they're going through periods of sadness during pregnancy. Instead of, hey, I'm happy I'm getting a baby, some people really actually go through a lot of sadness during pregnancy and a lot of changes. And then after they get a baby, sometimes that continues to even after they get a baby. It's so much you're trying to recover yourself and you have a baby to take care of. So, and then it's frustrations, you're not able to sleep, you're not able to, so it gets to a point where people are so frustrated that they have thoughts of harming the child, killing them, throwing the kid away. I wish I didn't have this child. So when somebody gets that extent, some of them actually end up killing the children during that period. So that's not a weakness. It's because you're not a woman enough to take care of this child. That needs to be taken seriously. And I mean, so unfortunately, sometimes nobody realizes, like I said, it's like, oh, it's just a new baby, and that is normal. It's common to everybody should be going through that. But we should pay attention to the mothers and the women that are pregnant and the ones that have had babies, because it's a lot of changes and chemical changes that go through their body. Their hormones goes up and down, up. So their hormones are not even stable actually until like 1 year, I think, after delivery. So you can imagine in between that, it's not even something that they can control. Their moods are up and down. They can sleep, they can do this. So yes, it's something we need to pay attention. And if somebody is struggling, you can refer them for help.
And forgive me for raising this, but I think from some things I had read in the past, you could have postpartum depression even with your 10th child. It doesn't have to be the first, the second. It could happen at any time. Is that correct?
Yeah.
You are very right. Yes, that's true.
So that's a nice segue. Let's talk about what therapies are there. What can we do to treat this? What is available out there? How do we cope? So is it medications? Is it psychotherapy? What would we do?
So we have different therapies. I can talk about, so much therapies that we cannot talk about all of them. We have what we call CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy. That's the most common ones that, and we have DBT too. I'm talking about the ones for suicide, specifically for suicide, since we're talking about suicide. So cognitive behavior therapy, it's where they tell you what to do. For example, hey, you can't sleep, let's say, for example, then think about something happy or something that has happened or something nice, just to bring you back to relax so you can be able to go back to sleep. You're having a panic attack. Maybe do this before you go, training your mind, changing your mind, because if you change your mindset, that changes your behavior. So if you can change your thinking, then that will affect your behavior. So you can start with that. That's one of the therapies that is available. Of course, if you can't get that, then we have medications. We have medications as easy as the over-the-counter that you can get. We have natural remedies to even help you sleep, help you with depression if you don't believe in really regular medications. We have, and we have other helpline, like I said, suicide, like when you mentioned suicide, we have helplines. We have a suicidal prevention number. On the people that are trained, if they get somebody on the line, at least 8% of the time they're going to get some help, or to convince them that it's okay to get out of it. The problem is most people, when they're in that point of committing suicide, some of them don't get to die on that number. So yes, if everybody can keep it in their phone number, it's something that you never know when it will be used. You never know if you go to a grocery store and somebody's walking out of the door and they're like, you know what, I'm tired of this life, I just want to kill myself. And you're like, hey, let's call this number, and you can help somebody.
Is it the same in UK, Cecilia?
Yeah, we got actually there is a 24 service. They are called Samaritans. You can call them anytime, anywhere you are, and they are quite able to help you. So those are the only things. And also the CBT is a part of it, and but it goes up to where it is so bad, then it is I don't know, you do it in America, ECT.
Oh, yeah, that's part of the treatment.
When the dip just goes into so much whatever. So but instead of that, they can actually try to do like sports. They can actually try to keep like connecting with their networking and all those kind of things. We're having friends. The strength of this whatever recovery is about having the networking, having the people around you. The family is the most important one. So even though you can have a family, those who doesn't have families, then maybe they might suffer. But in fact, they can only just keep themselves busy doing all those things they can do to make them actually come out of those minds. That would actually be able to help them. So that's helpline actually is very important here. People can be helped, and so many others charities we have that support them as well.
So for those of us in the US, I'd like to say that the National Suicide Prevention Hotline the number is 1-800-273-TALK, 1-800-273-8255, in case somebody is struggling. And a few things that I would like to add to that, because I know we are getting out of time. There are also holistic treatments, some things that somebody can do. What you eat, diet. When you exercise, especially a lot of good cardio, your brain produces endorphins, which are feel-good hormones. And this can actually help lift you up. You can have mindful meditation. You can have yoga. You can pray if it's not that extreme. Massage therapy, acupuncture. There are many things that you can do right from what you eat to how, cognitive behavioral therapy, so that you can be able to lift yourself. There's always something you can do to lift yourself out of this darkness.
Okay, so very quickly, let me say, I can see Stacy Moini, she says there's a high rise in men being suicidal. Suicide can be, she asked actually, can suicide be prevented? Cecilia, do you want to answer that? Can suicide be prevented? Just keep it short, please, so we can finish.
All right. It can be prevented. As I say, like when we actually we knew that was going with my brother, then we could have actually be able to help him. We could have actually looked for a support, which is there. But actually back home, you know how hard it is to get those supports. But in here, then it's very easy to help somebody if they are able to engage with you, they are able to express or able to know that they are going those situations. So we can help them. But men, as men, they are really very difficult maybe to reach them out, and they cannot maybe able, sometimes they may not be able to help us, but if we know, we can be able to help. And actually I can actually talk about the number for UK, for Samaritans, because those are the one for 4 hours helpline, which is only 116-23123, 116-123. There, anytime they can help. If you feel that you are feeling so much suicidal and problem, and you are actually don't have any way out, that the most important telephone you can call and reach out to somebody that can be able to help you.
Thank you for that. Let me go to you, Eunice. There's a question here from Margaret Kaheru, and she says, what about if you had a family member trying to commit suicide once and now he seems okay? Does it mean later in life he might commit suicide? Eunice?
Not necessarily. That is one of the risk factors. Once they've attempted suicide before, yes, there are an increased risk of committing suicide again. That increased risk more than somebody that has never committed or attempted suicide. I mean, of course, not committed, attempted suicide before. But that doesn't mean they will always commit suicide. The only thing, what it means to us is they need more support. We need to support them. We need to be there for them. We need to provide that. We need to be open to them. Reach out to them so they don't get to that point where they will again think about suicide. It's just the support and just being there for them.
And let me add something to that. The reason why they're committing suicide for the most part is because they're depressed. Sometimes people can be on medications and it doesn't work. They stop working. That's why you need that relationship with your therapist. So yes, the reason why you are more likely to commit suicide is because you have that underlying depression, and you might need to go to the unit again and say, hey, you know what? This doesn't seem to work. I'm now more sad, and then you can look for other things that you can do.
Okay, so another question here from B. Murray, and he says, if you notice a change in someone, encourage them to seek help, accompany them to a professional who can assess them. I guess that was just a comment. I think I did get another question from Janu. Let me see. And she said, please ask, how can we help our teens with cyberbullying because it's a major contributor? Anybody want to take that?
So cyberbullying, Cecilia, you want to talk about it a little bit? And I can
Oh, you're talking about bullying?
Yeah, cyberbullying, yeah.
Oh, cyberbullying. You know, like, because actually we are, parents have got no control. If you have got your child phone, or maybe they're on computer, they got all this internet. Sometimes it can be hard for you to know whether they are being bullied, not unless you come to learn them. But it is good to monitor your child, to know what they are doing, what the people they are communicating with, the child. It is the most important thing is to actually to be able to learn to be, to keep in touch. Keep your control of your child on those kind of things that they go through and what they are doing. So that way you'll be able to know whether there's something's a predictor somewhere there, outside there. So that's the only thing I can say, really.
So in addition to what Ms. Cecilia said, cyberbullying, actually, unfortunately, bullying has moved from school. Now people are doing cyberbullying, where they have competition about killing yourself. Let's see if you can kill yourself. And guess what? A kid goes ahead and kills themselves because they want to prove the point. But who are they proving to? They're dead. So they do not understand that much. So yes, that's a current problem that we're dealing with. It's a big problem, like a big problem. So how to help with that? My simple advice will be, I don't know too much about cyberbullying, but if you are able to find out what your child is doing on the internet, then that's good. If you can be able to get, security monitor and all that, that'll be good, because then you can be able to point those things out. But more importantly, create a relationship with your children. So if you are so close to your child, if they tell you everything, let you be the first person that your child comes to. Create that relationship where it's like when your child has trouble or has a problem or a friend tells them something wrong, you're the first person to tell. So, but if every time they come to you, you are like, oh, you need to be stronger than that. Oh, you're not a man enough. Oh, you're not a whatever. Oh, go back and do it. So if you dismiss it, then guess what? They will not open up and come tell you. The main thing, how you will find out, you monitor them very closely. If you are close to your children, you will know when they have behavior changes in the house. So you will realize there is something wrong. So try to find out, hey, come close, come down. Let's go out for dinner. Let's go out for a walk. Let's go out for a car ride. Hey, can you tell me how you're feeling? It doesn't seem like you're looking good today. What happened? Can I find out? Is there anything I can help? Can I take you outside for dinner? And then try to find out when you see a behavior changes in your children, please don't take it lightly. You never know what is happening, and that will push them to the edge. So create that relationship with your children and stay close to them.
And I think we actually touched on a potential solution to that earlier when you talked about coping mechanisms, because you're teaching your children to cope. A lot of the times they will not come to you and you not know everything that they're going through. They'll try to deal with it themselves. They'll go to their friends, and you might be the last person to know. But if you instill the right coping mechanisms, which includes being comfortable enough to come and talk to you, you'll be able to catch these things earlier and be able to help them through the process.
Okay. And the mentors, so in addition to that, mentors, let them have mentors or friends or people that they can trust to talk to.
All right, so I just want to read what Honorable Jeff Kariuki has said, and he says, great topic. Mental illness is not taken with seriousness it deserves in Africa. We need boots on the ground to sensitize the communities on how to identify and cope with various situations like depression and suicide. Anyone with work on the ground among the panelists? Is there anybody that's doing anything in Kenya to prevent suicide? I don't think so. No, well, I don't. Go ahead, Eunice.
Not yet, but of course that's a good point. That's something we can look forward to, to see if we can get some help and get some awareness. I've thought about it actually. We need some awareness in Kenya, because if somebody, for example, dementia, I remember my grandmother died of dementia. If something like that happened, you start seeing them getting confused. People think, oh, they've been poisoned or they're crazy or something happened, and they get neglected. So then guess what? They die out of negligence. So yes, that's a very good point.
It's actually an excellent question. And the awareness that we need to create is very important, because people know that if I have high blood pressure, I will need amlodipine. If I have diabetes, I need insulin. And people don't feel bad about talking about that. But when you have mental illness, nobody is comfortable talking about it. And yet we have so many people who are homeless, people who don't live to their potential. And imagine how, for instance, Kenya, how Kenya would be if everybody was actually living their fullest potential and how much we can achieve.
Yep.
Don't you think they need an awareness of mental health, because maybe this might help them, because actually the stigma is a taboo. It's really a taboo, and I think if only they can actually have knowledge and even know how to support them, even they know, or really not to judge people, because I think that is the worst. I think that's the awareness is the most important. I think it should be actually in those African countries, and even around, even the ones we live around with them. So that would help even to make sure that people understand that they don't have to judge people, and they have to support them when they see whatever they are. We have to support one another, you know. So I think awareness is the most important thing.
That's a good point.
Absolutely, yeah. So I just want to say thank you so much, and I really, really apologize, you know, for the technical hitches. You know, I've kept you for so long. I am so sorry, but I do appreciate you guys so much. So you want to do your closing? Well,
this has been actually a very, very nice forum for us. I have learned a lot. And I think, especially the comments that we got from online, I think the challenge of the awareness and spreading the word is a good opportunity for growth, because it can save a lot of lives. Remember, we do not need even one person to die. Nobody has to die or just exist in life without seeking help. There are professionals there. We have young growing professionals like Unit here, who are out there and they can help. So if you have any questions, please keep sending to Monica. If you need us to connect you with anybody in our panel, maybe from a professional point of view or somebody who is like-minded and can join the course, send those messages to Monica and we will connect each other. Thank you very much to everyone who was able to attend, and we hope to do this again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for giving us an opportunity, and maybe soon another time we can do it again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everybody that logged in. My hope and wish is we learned something, at least that will help save somebody's life. That's all that is important. Let's at least look out for the signs and symptoms of depression. What is happening? Because it seems like suicide is increasing. So if we can prevent one death, that would be very important. Just look out for, hey, is there somebody that needs help? Can I talk to somebody? Can I not be judgmental? Tell them, hey, go pray about it. In case, hey, can I find out what is wrong with them? What is bothering them? So my prayer and wish is, let's look out for our families and our people and the people that we live around with, and, you know, let's help somebody.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, good.